As Christian just touched on a little bit in the beginning, Brand Federation is built on a different business model that really enables us to flex across a wide diversity of clients. We serve very large multinational organizations, as well as a number of middle market businesses. And in that sort of serving that diversity of clients, one of the things we've found is the large companies we work with are equipped with insights departments, full research teams, and they're really used to spending a lot of money understanding their markets, understanding their industry, understanding their competition. But a lot of our middle market businesses, clients, they need to be able to compete in that environment. They need to be able to compete with those giants. And so we've had to find some sort of innovative ways to get them the value and the insights they need on more limited budgets. So today we're going to share with you a few tools that you can take and use without an expert to get a little bit smarter about your industry, your clients or target audiences, and be able to solve for some of the hypotheses that you're holding internally. So we're going to kind of break it into 3 different groups. It's going to be very conversational, and then please be putting your questions in the chat and we'll answer those at the end. The first we're going to talk through is artificial intelligence. I imagine that's something you guys are really excited to hear about. So we're going to tackle it right up front and kind of go a little bit deeper there. We're also going to dig into some digital tools that you can use or use more efficiently to get the answers you need. And then we're going to talk about how you can use associations and professional groups to really leverage that collective knowledge, going to go in with others to get the efficiency you need when it comes to learning.
Over to me.
Over to you, Erin.
Okay. Hi, everybody. Erin Bishop. Really happy to be here. I'm going to start with AI, as Rian said, and I'll go through a couple of ways that we are finding it useful today and talk a little bit about where we think that it's headed. First, I mean, it is here. And I think that's really the piece that is the truest, and it has come very quickly and it's continuing to evolve very, very quickly. So this may be an obsolete conversation in 2 months is how quickly it's moving. So here are the things that we are finding it useful for today, and we cannot recommend highly enough that you dig in. So learn the tools, familiarize yourself with prompt engineering. So learn how to get the tools to do what you want them to do, and make sure that your team is also pretty up to speed there because it's coming and evolving fast. First one really is in landscape assessment. So as many of you know, this is one of the primary and initial tools for any kind of market research project. So first, what is the lay of the land? When our clients come to us and say, sometimes they'll come and say, we need a survey about XYZ, backing them out and looking at where they are among their competitors, what are the trends in the marketplace that might be impacting them, what are relative market shares, and so on. That traditionally has taken a lot of time, and we're finding a lot of time and cost savings there in landscape assessment. We are also finding from the back room that there is a lot of efficiency in terms of the ways that AI can do things like translate for international surveys or give you transcripts of sessions. We're looking at ways that it can help in terms of analysis. I think that's coming. Other ways that it can be helpful are, for example, in a survey, looking at the grade level that you're writing at. It can do a quick assessment for things like that, that sometimes we would even have to outsource for. And then finally, your first draft of just about anything can be helped along with an AI language tool. I know for me, the blank page is my sort of what keeps me up in the middle of the night, and I have a terrible time starting a new thing. So sometimes getting that cue from one of the AI tools is really helpful. We'll show you a couple of the examples of the tools that we've used and found helpful. Before I do that, though, I do want to touch on where I think this is going and where I think it is currently weakest is in the very beginning and the very end of your insights effort. So in structuring kind of what it is you need to know to solve your problem, there isn't anything that's sort of problem solving on that end. And then on the back end, in terms of the analytics, we're seeing some promising things for basic data analytics and for text analytics, but it's really not there yet. So do plan that that's going to be more of a human effort, at least for the next maybe a couple of months, Ryan, until it evolves. So Ryan, let's talk about our experience with this tool, Bard, and maybe we can go through also the different tools we're using and the differences between them.
Yep, that sounds great. So much like Erin just stated, we can't underline enough that these tools can be really powerful for finding efficiencies, but they still really need to be paired with that human element. And we have some examples of that. Starting off with this landscape assessment, and we found this to be pretty powerful at the discovery phase of any project when we're getting to know a client, as well as sort of in the proposal stage when we're just starting to understand who a client is, who their competitors are, et cetera. Bard is able to actually pull from the internet. So that's a key difference between this tool and ChatGPT is this tool's pulling more relevant information. It's Google's tool. You'll hear more and more talk about it moving forward. They're really advancing it fast to be a competitor for ChatGPT. Bing also has a tool that can be used similarly to pull that sort of relevant, up-to-date information from the internet. And so you can give it prompts, a number of questions that really help you with that initial investigation. And you can see here, we've been playing with different prompts. We played with one for Apple, for example, to understand how are they performing today? Who are their top competitors? What cultural forces might be influencing the industry, et cetera. So kind of pulling questions from a 4Cs type scan, but doing it in a way that sort of lays out some foundational answers. And then those answers act as springboards for our team to go dive deeper, ask deeper questions to these tools, or go dive deeper into resources or sources rather that might be a little bit more respected and dependable. For example, and the reason why I kind of underline that over and over again, there was a time when I was working on a proposal doing this work, and actually the system pulled the wrong CEO and gave me all this information around demand that had nothing to do with the organization. So it's really is a foundational springboard. The internet is not accurate. I know that's shocking us all, but the internet is not necessarily all accurate. And there aren't the right protections in place necessarily to ensure that these tools are only pulling from, well-cited sources. So we're going to have to go in and do your own investigation on top of this.
A lot of times with the results they'll give you back, the tool will link to the site it used. And so sometimes the check is going back through those sites and looking at dates and making sure that everything is still there. That's one check that's valuable and easy to do within the tool.
That's such a great point. ChatGPT can also be a tool that you can use in this space, and it can write some pretty beautiful language around these questions. The downfall is that information is about 3 years old. So if you want to be looking historically at sort of older information, ChatGPT might be a tool you wanted to use here. But again, really making sure that you look at those sources available in all three, I think, of the tools that we've mentioned, and make sure that it's pulling from the right places.
That's right. The other one that we have used and found helpful is Read AI, and we use this in our meetings, and it will provide us a quick summary and transcript of our meetings. So if you're doing meeting minutes, I would call this also maybe a little bit of a first draft. Ryan, what do you think? Sometimes the summaries are pretty funny.
They can be hilarious, actually, and pull from like the chit chat at the beginning about the weather or whatever it is.
About the dentist, and we really didn't. But yeah. It is super helpful in terms of saving that time. We can always delete the things we didn't need, but no one has to develop that document anymore. And this would be helpful also from a research standpoint, if you're thinking about, say, one-on-one interviews and you need a recording of it, but you're worried about the folks feeling confidential. They are, in most cases, more comfortable with the AI hearing them than they are with any other kind of recording.
That's a great point, Erin. And there's also a really nice feature here where it pulls out, if you can see their chapters, and it links those to the video. For instance, if you were not promising anonymity in some of these interviews, you could go through and actually pull clips of the customers saying certain things about your client or your brand. And that can be a really nice way to display insights and have people sort of feel like they were a part of the research later, depending on what your objectives are and how you set up the study.
Right. And then lastly, we do want to put ChatGPT in here, even though it is a couple of years old in the information that it's giving you. It is a beautiful language model. So what it will be super valuable for are best practice first drafts of research and insight oriented documents. So you can describe for it what you need, and then help it fine tune into the language of your organization and business. So you can prompt ChatGPT, for example, to say, make it more conversation, rephrase this more casually, and really work through tone and wording. And also, it will look back and pull up best practices for things like a regression analysis or so on, so that you can get some clarity around that view. Again, same cautions in place always. The data is 3 years old and the internet is not always reliable. Our biases are built into what it's feeding us. So keep that in mind. But I think in short, Ryan, it's just that, get familiar and get ready, because it's just coming and it's super exciting.
Absolutely. Another thing that you can use ChatGPT for, which I think is really helpful for me sometimes, is if you have a hypothesis, basically what you want to ask, but you're having a hard time writing a very accessible, clean question. You can put the question in and you can say, give me 5 different versions of this question, write it to a 3rd grade reading level, etc. And it will give you different ways to word. So you can kind of break out of that writer's block box if you're in it.
That's right. Great. Okay, let's talk about another set of sort of hackable tools. These are the digital tools that I think probably everyone is aware of, but I have found in my 25-year career that the vast majority of my clients really aren't using these to their full extent. Ryan, is that true for you also?
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, I think there are always more insights to gain or more different ways to look at this data in order to leverage it.
Yeah, so let's go through just a couple of those. The first is your Google Analytics. I know everybody knows that this exists. However, I don't find that most of the businesses we're working with are really using them in terms of the segmentation that it can offer. It gives you some fairly basic, but a decent profile of demographics like age and gender and geo and so on. These are folks who are coming to your site. Also some attribution in terms of where they're coming from and where they're not coming from, which is another area that I think is super important. So that, I think there's a new interesting version that I'm a little out of my depth on. I don't know much about it, called GA4, that I think has some exciting new possibilities for those who are wonky and in it. LinkedIn is doing similar things in terms of profiles, but also looking at professional levels and other professional interests, looking at those analytics, and the campaign manager showing you who it is and is not viewing what you're doing. Ryan, anything you want to add on either one of these? Go ahead.
Yeah, they can also be powerful tools for doing a little bit of heat mapping. So within this LinkedIn campaign manager, you may be able to look at, some A/B testing to understand which messages are more relevant for which audiences. Similarly, in Google Analytics, you might be able to see on your website what content is really being digested, what pages people are sitting on for a while, and what profiles they seem to map back to, which can just give you a little bit of insight into better structuring those messages, communicating your brand the best way possible to different audiences, etc. So it can help you kind of break that down, do a little bit of segmentation.
Yeah, and also we didn't put a screenshot of this in here, but Meta has really detailed consumer segmentation work through that site. So if you're running Meta or Facebook ads, that's another great tool. So regardless of the tool you use, though, the key is do take the time to dive in and see what's available. They are just dramatically underused tools that can give you crumbs leading to some real insight that can help inform your decision making. You are probably in more than one of these spaces. So get the tools for each of those spaces and then build a dashboard or find somebody to help you build a dashboard. This is the one area I know we're focused on what you can do yourself. If this isn't able to be done internally, I think it is worth an investment. It's a moderate investment to get somebody to come in and help you with this. A tool we use is Looker. But you want to get these free or very, very low cost analytics together on a page and then start looking at it month by month. And I guarantee you're going to learn something. It might not be what you expect. You might still have questions at the end of it, but it will shed light on your current business problems and issues. And it's right there for you. Anything else you want to add?
No, I think that was great. Thanks, Erin.
Okay. And this last one, this is one of our favorites. It's one of the easiest. And I think one of the most important is leverage up in your associations. The associations are huge, just a wealth of insight for you. They've got collective knowledge and collective buying power. Some of our favorite clients are associations. The work they do is great. We know that they really want to serve their members. They're putting the information that they have done the research for out for their members. So really encourage you to join affiliate groups. If it's the chamber, if it's your professional group, ask for the insights and research that they have. And if they don't have it, agitate for it. It's a service that an association should be providing its members. And we have a couple of examples here. Ryan, you want to walk through ANA? That's one that I know you're super excited about. Me too, but you more.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So ANA is just a great example where members of that collective knowledge coming forth, and the knowledge is pulled from their membership, but they just have a huge resource of client side and marketing companies dumping their research and information into a place where you can kind of tap into studies that have been done that can bring a lot of insight to your work. So, when everyone's out there doing this independently, it costs a whole lot more than if XYZ in my category already did the work and I'm able to go in and leverage those findings. So really, really powerful stuff here. I think sometimes associations offer so much that it's kind of like Google Analytics. It's just like so overwhelmed. They don't know where to dig in, but a place to start is always, what studies have other people in my industry already done that can bring a lot of value to my day-to-day, and looking for those as they come out, because usually they're going to come out on some sort of regular cadence.
I also would say that if you're pairing that kind of industry level studies with your individual digital analytics, you're going to get really far down the path. That's a strong concept to work with. And also, while you were talking, Ryan, sorry, I popped up this next slide on APPA.
Perfect. APPA is a leader in the pet products industry, and they put out a couple of surveys every year that have become sort of Bibles for the industry. So they're an example of an association that when you join, when you become part of it, you get access to this sort of collective buying power. So your membership pays for these big industry studies to happen that give you all kinds of insight into what consumers are doing, what new competitors are popping up, et cetera. So really, really extensive, beautiful research that they put out on an annual basis. There are a lot of associations and professional organizations that do things like this, where your membership actually fuels research that you can use regularly to make more informed decisions.
That's great. This is the end of our sort of primary content. Here's sort of a reminder of the three topics that we brought up today. And I think we're happy to share any questions you have. I'll leave this on the screen, and if questions start coming, then I'll just kill the screen and we can chat, you and I.
Oh, here we go. We have a question. A couple of them.
There are a few questions now from Daniel. How do you bring mid-sized clients' family business to data insights on board, as some may refuse reality? I found that if they are part of the process inside a sprint workshop, it's easier for them to welcome the new reality.
Yes, I think often we'll have, well, I think one thing that is just true of the market cap size. So when you're in the small to mid business, a lot of businesses have been run on really strong instinct and a little bit of insight. And as companies grow and expand, the instinct run business decision making really comes up against sometimes what you're learning in insight. And that's a big challenge. By far, I think you're exactly right, Daniel, that bringing someone in and from the jump in a research project and making sure that they are comfortable with what you are showing them is a great path to do it, the best path to do it. I'm not sure if I'm answering your questions. Ryan, do you have anything to add there? Except
No,
for on the team of learning about the tools so that they believe in them, they're learning with you.
I think that's a great point, Erin. I think, the way that we would always suggest bringing a client on is collaboratively. So the more that you can show them evidence that's deep enough for them to believe, this is being research led is going to help me make better decisions and it's going to help me be more successful. I think remembering, it can be easy in a services or organization to start thinking that, clients are working against us, but we're all working for the same thing, which is the success of that organization, the livelihoods of the people that work there. And so, remembering that if we're working towards the same goal, we just need evidence to be able to believe that we can move further, go faster, do better when we leverage these insights. And I think the impetus is on us as consultants to really provide that evidence and to be open to collaboration, because often there's things we can learn from the other side too.
Yeah, and I imagine that a lot of the resistance is on the investment side of things. So if there is a kind of small family business that is feeling resistance to taking some primary research steps, hopefully some of the things that you saw today or other hacks that you can do to start to shine a light on what data can do and show them might be good sort of incremental steps to get them further down that path. I do see a question. I can just, Christian, you don't have to read it out loud if you don't want to, but any best practices for structuring and to ensure the best out of leveraging AI tools? There is a wild and beautiful conversation happening right now around the topic of prompt engineering. And that is where I think you're going to find the amazing things that people can do. People have developed prompts to turn ChatGPT into a tarot card reader, into a therapist, into all kinds of really neat tools. Really, I think it is learning for yourself what the language and knowledge that you need is and working within your version of the tools to continue to fine tune. It will learn you and work with you. Ryan, what do you think?
I think the only thing I'd add to that is don't be afraid to be really descriptive. You can tell it the tone of voice you want to write in. You can give it examples of your writing if that's what you're looking for. You can ask it a number of questions. You can be very specific on what you need. And so some of the best prompts are not a sentence as you would think. They're a full paragraph, really giving it the details it needs. So, one way to think about it is if there was a brilliant Einstein third grader out there, how would I explain exactly what I wanted to get out of this child when I asked him a question? Give it all the context that it needs to give you what you need. And don't be afraid if that prompt starts to get long.
It's a great analogy, a brilliant third grade Einstein. That's where we are. Can write a survey.
I see a question from Patrick O'Keefe. Great to see that and hear from you. It's been a long time. I think this is sort of a question that's out there a lot. Obviously, I wonder about the ethics of using AI into work, especially creative work. On what fine line do we tread between efficiency and, if going further, laziness? So in my mind, laziness is actually not our enemy here. When the internet came out, I think there were very similar fears and concerns. It's going to make us very lazy. It's going to, it's going to eliminate the need for humans, et cetera. I don't fear that so much, though I do think AI will start taking over more and more jobs, and that's something we have to think about. To me, the real ethical problem of AI is in that creativity space that you ask there. I think there's an immense possibility that it's following patterns, right? I mean, that's what we know. It follows patterns. And so it's very good at helping us follow patterns of what's worked in the past. But some of the most amazing creative breakthroughs that humans have made are breaking through those patterns. So I think we need to be constantly questioning how we apply the strength of our humanity, the ability to think outside of patterns and to really think in a new direction, we need to be applying that to how we use AI. And otherwise, the efficiency it creates can just give us more time to be creative. It can give us more time to kind of go through some of those mundane tasks, especially when it comes to research, and really think about taking a new approach. How do we kind of stretch ourselves? So if we use it in that way, the way we've used the internet, and you can say there's been a lot of downside to the internet, and I would agree, but I think it's applying the right filters to it and making sure we're leaning into our powers as humans to use it most effectively moving forward. Erin, anything you'd add?
I could not have said that better myself, except for to say that the internet made me maybe a little bit lazy, just a touch.
Definitely.
I see a question from Jennifer. What tips would you share for virtual ethnography? I think there's a lot of opportunity here, certainly in digital and virtual ethnography. A lot of those social media tools are going to be your friend. I would, I don't know, and Ryan, maybe you have a sense of this. I don't believe that there's a whole lot of AI right now happening in the ability to monitor social media.
I don't know a lot of examples of that, no.
Yeah, I believe that that's not there. So I think that is still a little bit of it may still be automated, but human, not AI driven. But if somebody knows of a tool there that's AI driven, please do put it in the chat and we would love to look into it. I think on the digital ethnography front, we're still looking at a little bit more traditional tools, but certainly starting in those digital tools with the profiles that you can build and the segmentation you can build, and then looking into how to go deeper using another set, sort of depending on your goals. And I'd be happy to talk you through that offline if you'd like.
Hillary, this is such an interesting question here that you're sort of up against ChatGPT for problem solving with a client. I wish I almost had more context, but I think a little bit. What I would lean on is in conversation, reminding your clients that ChatGPT is pulling from 3-year-old information, and it is generating responses based on patterns. And some of those might be very effective, but there's always additional exploration to do around what it regurgitates. And so, saying, yes, we would love to use some of these responses as a launch board to investigating new ideas, but we shouldn't take them as, tried and true, this is gospel. We should be able to dig deeper on anything that it gives us in order to make sure that we're making the right decisions. ChatGPT in and of itself is not a consultant. It is a language learning tool, and it is very flawed still. As useful as it is, it can be very flawed, and reminding your clients of that.
And I think one advantage too, to sort of where we are in the development of this technology is that we are all together learning. We're learning together. And so I think what we don't want is to push against it as this emergent technology. I think that won't help us because it is really here and on top of us. So, my unsolicited advice, or maybe solicited advice, would be to sort of lean in, think of it as your friend, because it is, and figure out how to use it as your friend. But also, I think it's wise to just say, hey, clients, we're all learning this tool together. Let's try to break it, or let's try to build something together with it. If you feel you're in danger of losing your client, if they're going to choose ChatGPT over a consultant, I think that's a decision they will regret, and you just wait for them to come on back to you. Would be my thought. Oh, Ryan, anything else there?
No, I think you're absolutely right, Erin.
Other questions from anyone? We're happy to answer. And of course, available. There's, I think our contact information was at the bottom of the presentation and the recording.
If there are no further questions after the presentation, we will be sending out the deck to everyone who registered. Contact information will be there. And yes, I know Erin and Ryan are happy to answer any questions at any time, should you have them about these research tips they've shared or any other research questions that may be on your mind.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for this. Bye, everyone. Thanks for coming.